dude's nowhere to be fucking found. All right.
We can't find Dylan, but we're back. Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Nathan Schwartz, joining me from Sacramento. Aaron Schroeder.
And Dylan, where art thou? Good to see you, Nate.
Dylan, where you at, buddy? We're trying to get all three of us back, talk about the happenings, the hip hop happenings. So we're gonna go with least important to most important, so that way we can maybe stall for time, maybe have Dylan join us.
Yeah, good idea.
But least important and most recent, Nas Reed just signed in for $42 million, 3 years. Aaron, how are you feeling about it?
Terrible. I thought he was going to come to the Kings. He was going to be the perfect backup center. But for Minnesota, you got to love retaining good players for not that much money. They have some players getting paid a lot of money, some players getting paid not that much money. I think they're paying the wrong ones a bunch of money. But I'm interested to see. We were talking earlier before we started recording about the town situation. Is they lock up Rudy Gobert is making $7 billion until the day he dies. And you're still working on the cat situation. And he there was reports before the during the finals saying they expected him to be moved pretty soon. Didn't end up happening. We're still in the window where it may happen. That the rumors haven't really been that hot. And Towns also went on a few strange tears on podcasts, whatnot, talking about how you can get 40 if you call the right plays, and how the 2018 Timberwolves or whoever it was, the play-in Timberwolves are better than the champion Nuggets or something.
I
But
think he said they accomplished more, or what they did was more impressive
yeah,
in some way, shape, or form than winning an NBA championship, which is just wild.
I want what he's smoking, man. I'm trying to get it. I asked my dealer and he wouldn't let me know. He said it's too exclusive. I do not have a dealer. I just want to make that clear, Grandma. That was a joke. That was hyperbole. All right.
So I mean, Minnesota might have a dealer because they are now paying $90 million. The cap is like 135, and they're paying 90 million of that to 3 centers in Gobert, Towns, and Reed.
But we like the Nas Reed deal, though.
We do like the deal. I was pushing that. I wanted them to try again because they only got like 17 games of Towns and Gobert together. So I was like, run it back. This, in theory, on paper, Gobert plays the defense, Cat plays the offense. You can piecemeal this together, and it should be really good, as opposed to trying to sell Towns for pennies on the dollar. But bringing back Nas Reed really tells me that they are going to try to move either Cat or Gobert for not very much.
Well, you're also looking at the Edwards extension because he has team options this year, and then next year, 2024. I mean, that's the last year of that deal, and he's a max guy, 100%. They're going to give him every penny they can, and at that point, that's too much. That's too much. At that point, you're way in over the cap, and with the Suns being over the salary cap with the new CBA, it's going to hit you hard. But I think the Suns can win a title. This Wolves team is not a title contender by any stretch. As much as I like Edwards, I feel like the future is you got to build this around Edwards, get this going, get his extension, and then I just don't think Towns is going to be part of it.
My one pushback is you don't have time to rebuild this. You don't have time. You don't have assets. The team is pretty much built. You've traded away all of your assets. You know, I saw someone saying that the Suns should try to trade Ayton for Gobert and picks, and I was like, they don't have picks. They have traded away all of their picks, all of their assets. You know, like you can't move things if you're Minnesota. So like,
Not at all.
this is the time to go all in for it. And on the Nas Reed side of things, I really wanted Nas to hit the open market. I felt like Nas worked with so many teams. Victor Wembanyama recently came out and said that he was looking forward to playing the 4. He kind of didn't want to go up against NBA-sized centers in his first couple of years. Someone asked him that, and he was pretty candid. You bring in Nas. Nas bangs down low. I thought the same thing about OKC. You know, he could play next to Chet, which, have you seen some of the Chet workouts?
Looks good. I've taken him into my Dynasty League.
Yeah. I mean, it's summer workouts everyone looks good in summer workouts because if you look bad, you just don't release that clip.
That's Jay. Jalen Green shot 100% in his summer workout video he posted today. Dude
So
is
did Ben
dunking on.
Simmons
Yeah, Ben Simmons, lights out shooter.
in summer workout videos every year.
That's true. Every year. Every year. Every year. Okay. Next
All
order
right.
of business.
Next order of business, I think the next least impactful thing was what you were texting me about beforehand, which is did Toronto just miss out? Like Pascal is 29. Fred Van Vliet's probably on the move.
1 second. I just heard. Is Dylan here? I heard like
No,
a
that
sound.
was
Oh, okay.
yeah, I bumped my mic.
Oh, gotcha. I apologize. Start that again.
Second least important is did Toronto just miss out? Pascal is 29. Fred Van Vliet is probably out the door. Why haven't they been more aggressive? Why aren't they doing
I have no
anything?
idea. I don't know. I wish I knew, Nate. I've never seen a team with so many assets that are valuable trade none of them and then still miss the playoffs. It's truly confusing. I don't think this they could run it back. I don't think they'd be very good next year. It looks like Van Fleet is gone, and they kind of missed that window when they could have had the Lakers picks or whatnot. And Siakam being 29 and also publicly killing his trade value, saying I'm not going to resign anywhere except for Toronto, and then you're stuck with him, who's like a top 30-ish player,
Mm-hmm.
25-ish player. Um, I think it rests on Scotty Barnes. I'm still a huge Barnes guy. The sophomore season was about as good as his rookie season, but it's not nearly as cool. Um, it's not the new shiny thing. Oh, hello.
Still here.
Am I still here? Did I?
Yep.
Okay, we cut out for a second. What did you hear? What's the last thing you heard?
All of it. It was gargly, but I heard it all.
Okay, all right. Okay. He's not the new shiny thing anymore, but you got to put stock in that.
Yeah. I really wish they could have figured something out with Portland. Portland seemed very active and very willing to shop that number 3 pick. Before they knew who it was, before they got Scoot. Even now, it seems like they'd be okay with trading it. I have 3 scenarios for Portland, and while trading that pick for a star is my least favorite of the 3, it seems to be Dame's favorite, and I'm just kind of surprised that Toronto wasn't able to coax them into it and actively rebuked the offer and said, "Nah, we're good. We don't want this."
Just ridiculous. I don't know what Portland's doing. Dame wants them to trade for a star. Portland doesn't want to trade for a star. They don't want to trade Dame either. So left with Dame and nothing. Um, I'm interested to see where they go with that, but they're stuck where they are. But even if the thing is they're not a star away, that Portland team, that they're
No.
not Siakam away from contending. They're Siakam away from like a 4 seed, but they're so far behind Boston. They're so far behind Denver. They're not as LA. They could, if the Clippers stay healthy, they're not as good as them. I don't think they're better than Memphis. I'd like to think the Kings are better. The Bucks, the Sixers, they're like, I think even if they grab Siakam, they go from like the 18th best team to like the 10th best team, and so there's no other option but to rip this apart. But how exciting would that be to rip it apart and have Scoot just going nuts?
I hate to say this, but I'm kind of siding with Jordan here.
About what?
I'm not crazy excited about Scoot.
I go back and forth. I go back
Okay.
and forth. I think concept of Brandon Miller, like the rangy scorer, the tall guy who can play good defense and like just the wing is more enticing than the guard,
Mm-hmm.
just as a fundamental basketball
Mm-hmm.
idea. I'm telling you though, when the draft started and I saw Scoot, when I first, because I didn't really recognize him immediately, and I saw him holding a basketball, I was like, that's a 7'5" guy. That's a center. That's some center I haven't heard of. And like Scoot Henderson, and I'm like, that guy's hands. Maybe I'm looking too much into hand size, but he had before that was like an actual center, and he just like looked like he was swinging a basketball. It looked like Scoot was holding a Nerf ball, and I just from a 6'2" guy, I think that's cool.
Trying to think what the guy's name was. I think it was like Walter Herman. Uh, yeah, Walter Herman. He was he's one of the Argentinian guys that beat the US back in 04, then played with the Pistons. And he has the record for the largest hands in
Really?
NBA history. Yeah, he just had these like monster hands. Like he could almost like if you put one hand on the ball, you could put the other hand on the ball and it'd be like thumb to thumb and then pinky to like middle of the hand, middle of the palm. Like that's like how big his hands were. It's just that reach. And he was not good. He was like supposed to be a stretch shooting forward, and it just wasn't a thing. So I've never been a hand size guy. Like when they talk about Kawhi's hands, he's got these massive hands. I'm
He
like,
does.
like what the fuck do hands have to do?
He
Like
can palm the ball. It's like the Jordan thing. You can control the ball better. But I think just from scooping,
I
I
get
just
it.
feel like I think if I had to pick it, I'm just so interested in the scoop thing and just this crazy athletic center. And in a year, and where in 1 year, we're gonna come back on this pod, and he's gonna be Dennis Smith Jr. and I'm gonna look like an idiot. But now I'm into it.
I'm a little worried about him. It just the lack of development of the shot over the last 2 years. I mean, he's been playing in the G League for 2 years, supposedly working with NBA coaches, NBA readiness, and they haven't developed that shot. Now, I've seen a number of draft people be like, "Listen, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's there's these things about the G League, and there's these other things about why this is okay that he can't shoot yet." I'm seeing a flashy athletic guard without a jump shot. We get so many point guards. The point guard position is the most hotly contested versus a 6'9", 2-3 wing who can play defense, who can shoot, who's got handles. I think he's not as good, but Brandon Miller. I don't think he's like as good, but I think he's got a higher upside, higher potential
Yeah, I
than
see it. I
Scoot
see, and
has.
and the fit next to LaMelo works better too. I don't know how we even got here. Well, it was the Raptors, then the Raptors trading Siakam to Portland, and then Portland having Scoot Henderson, and then we like our tangents. If I had to pick one of the teams that I just think is screwed, it is Toronto. The next one is Portland. Up until they decide to do something with anything. Do you want to touch on any more of the draft? Did you like the Thompson twins? They went 4 and 5. That was pretty cool.
It is cool. I know so little about the rest of the draft. Like I did not prep for the draft stuff. I went and I watched the guys that the Lakers got after they got them and kind of read some draft analysis.
Hmm.
And like the first
Hall of
guy they got,
Famers, right?
is like, yeah, up and down season. Can't really play without the ball. Not good at catch and shoot threes. And I'm like, why the fuck did we draft this guy? Like NBA ready body and wing. I'm like,
Yeah,
we need wings, but
need wings.
let's get the guy that can shoot, can play off ball.
Nah, you don't need that. You don't need that.
Not needed.
I commented on a Reddit post saying that if the Rockets win more than 29 games, I'll buy a Rockets game ticket and eat it. And people said like, like the reminders, like remind me. Oh, there he is.
Oh man,
Dylan.
we've never done a 3-person on this. Gotta
Nate
figure out
is
our video
gigantic.
setup.
I'm so tiny. Dylan, how are you? It's been so long.
It has been, eh?
Yeah,
Schedules never line up.
I know. Is that a cup set?
There we
Very
go.
cool.
That
Wait, it's a
kinda-
Cubs hat. I thought it was a Clippers hat.
Kind of looks like a cup. Looks like the Cubs logo to me, man.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
I'm kidding.
That's great. I just turned on my Cubs notifications because they're my team now after the A's left.
For real.
Hmm.
wait, the
Uh-huh.
A's left?
Yeah, well, it's not official yet, but the everything except for the stadium being built is done.
Oh,
I'm in a baseball for one fucking season, and my team leaves.
Man. Did they know you were a Kings fan? And they were like, oh man, he was long suffering through Sacramento. Let's get him in because like we've been long suffering, but the team never left, and maybe that luck will rub off and just no.
No, it's they end up winning like 8 straight or something, but for a little bit they were on pace to be the worst team of all time. And baseball's a really old fucking sport, like pre Jim Crow old sport. And
Actually,
it's still like, and it's still they are still worse than anything that's ever happened.
fun fact about baseball: baseball is so old that it was originally desegregated, and you had some African American and then some like South American players playing in the league. And then when it says like 1907, it might be like 1917, sometime in that time frame, they were like, "Nah, we need to segregate. Fuck this. We're going to be racist and push everyone out." And then desegregated in 1950 something.
I love that America measures time periods by how racist it was in that period.
Baseball is so old that there are Hall of Fame players that are like renowned for like being like they stood for segregation at the time. But a really quick baseball note that I think you guys would enjoy: the worst team ever, the Cleveland Spiders, like pre 1900. They were so terrible, but the reason they were terrible is that there was an owner that owned 2 major league teams, and he took all the good players and put them on one of the teams. And so his second team won like 10 games. And that's like brilliant. Kind of where like the A's were. Like the 2023 A's were like around like the 1898 Cleveland Spiders. So it was a good season.
I mean, that's what I do. That is team building at its finest.
No, it's good. It's smart, but it's just like we were comparable to a minor league team prior to the Industrial Revolution.
All right. Aaron's got a hard out, so we got to focus up and get through some shit. Dylan, we did Portland. We did Naz Reid. We did the Brandon and Scoop picks. What you feeling? You want to talk Chris Paul? You want to talk Beal? You want to talk Porzingis?
I mean, we didn't get to hear Aaron's thoughts other than TikTok on the Beal trade, so maybe we want to get onto that.
I hated it. I hate it, and every day I hate it more. And I wanted to ask you, Dylan, before we move on, how do you feel about the trade that never was? The trade that got rid of Marcus Morris? Are you still mourning the loss of that trade?
I mean, like, you got to think that there's another trade that will be based on a similar framework that's coming, but obviously for like trade talks to get that deep and then for it to just be like, oh no, never mind, like totally off the table, like that man's medical report was not looking good.
For the Clippers to back out of a trade for fucking medicals is ridiculous.
For Warriors to have the terms, like it's that deep that like Marcus Morris and Amir Coffey are like packing their bags, and then the Clippers look at the medical report and they're like, no, never mind.
So I actually think there's a chance that they salvage this. Have you guys heard that the reason why the Celtics were able to salvage the Porzingis trade is because they were working on a Marcus Smart to Memphis for Tyus Jones and 2 picks. They had that deal frameworked out, but they, when the Brogdon deal fell apart, they were like, all right, let's just move in and we'll do it this way. I kind of wonder if the Clippers, so they backed out because they weren't able to get a physical on Brogdon. They just got the injury report and backed out. There wasn't enough time before the deadline for Kristaps to opt in. I wonder if maybe the Clippers, the Wizards, and the Celtics can get back into this deal and reroute Tyus Jones to Boston, reroute Marcus Morris down to the Wizards, and get Brogdon back after they can get like a full physical when free agency really starts. Do the medical due diligence.
Totally possible. I don't think Malcolm Brogdon has an arm. I don't, whatever arm it was, I don't think it's there anymore. He got lost in the luggage or something. But I think with the Clippers and the Celtics, it's 2 well-run teams, and they'll definitely take a crack at that. Back to the Beal trade before you get too distracted. I did hate it, Dylan. I really did. Well, I hate it because you went all in on a team that I don't like very much. I don't think Bradley Beal is that good. I think he's ridiculously expensive, and it's going to hurt your team going forward financially. But also, it doesn't really add like a level of depth. when like the super teams were formed, they all kind of do different stuff. And I think Beal, Durant, and Booker all do the same thing, which is they don't shoot a ton of threes. They take a ton of mid-range jumpers. It didn't make them any more dangerous, except for they had another guy do the same thing. And you're stuck with less bench than you had before. And with Aiden, I've seen 1,000 times that, and I made a whole video about it. My dog's going fucking ballistic. I'm sorry. With Aiden, they'll flip him for role players. Aiden's value is negative. Zero. It's 0 to negative, depending on who you're talking to. He's not that good, and he's played like he's the best center in the league. I'm not sure who's interested. I'm not sure who's like, I'll give you 3 good players for that. I'll give you 1.5 good players. You're going to take the same money back, but you're not going to get magical depth from Aiden.
His value is so negative that Phoenix is like, come on, Philly, give us Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris fucking sucks. He's terrible. I don't know.
Tobias Harris is worth at least Jared Allen and Evan Mobley.
That's
and
another
a future
thing
pick.
I wanted to touch on. I don't know what is going on with the league, and like after the Gobert deal, no one's gonna make a trade unless they're just swindling somebody. Like you can't. It's some point we've made the monopoly talks before. Where at some point you got to be like, I understand this might be a 50-50 deal, and this is a little risky. I'm gonna err on the side. This will air out. This will end up going well for me. And it's like we talked about the Raptors before Dylan got on, and how like they have all these assets, but they want 1,000 things back, and you're not getting that for OG Anunoby. You're not getting that for Tobias Harris.
Before we move on, I'll just say quickly on Beal that originally I was totally with you that like, it's not a great fit. It's incredible diminishing returns, and it didn't address their actual weakness. But then I had the point raised like, was there actually a world where Chris Paul got you depth? Like, wasn't Chris Paul also a negative contract and like, a bunch of second round picks? Like, what sort of depth are you getting? Like, you couldn't get, Dorian Finney-Smith for Chris Paul and 4 second round picks. So like the value that they were able to get in Beal, even though it's actually not a great fit, is so much higher than anything else that they could have possibly got him for. Chris Paul's shitty contract and some terrible draft capital.
So the thing I'll just say about that is I don't think you can get anything better for Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul is he doesn't have much value. But I think the cap space that you could create by either cutting Chris Paul or trading him into an exception, that's someone that wants to cut him. I think there's other ways that you could have created of a way to get value that you just can't do now. Beal's contract locks you up and locks you into the second apron. Like, you can't have Beal, Durant, and Booker for the next couple of years and not be a second apron team. And that has all sorts of different repercussions. They ended up giving away swaps on the 24, 26, 28, and 30 pick, which the Bill Simmons pod pointed out something really interesting. And I don't know the cap minutia well enough to know if they're right or wrong. And they didn't know if they were right or wrong. So it was kind of an interesting point. But if you were over the second apron for 3 out of 5 years, your pick automatically becomes the 30th pick. They didn't know how that would affect swaps. But if your pick automatically becomes 30th, and that swap then has no value in 28 and 30,
that's awesome.
it's a great cap loophole, well, potentially. Now, they did suggest that, hey, maybe they look at whatever the thing is. Your pick is 15. They can do the swap, and then whatever pick you get jumps to 30th. They weren't sure. I'm not sure.
That makes sense.
It would. Otherwise, like, these Wizards
just hand out
picks,
swaps, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a Wizards move to trade for swaps that are just automatically last. I texted Nate and thought about this with the Suns swaps, where I'm like, that could be crazy because the Suns, who knows what the Suns look like in 2030. But then I also have to bank on the Wizards being like above average ever. Just at one point in the next 15 years, the Wizards are kind of good. And I honestly saw that less then I saw the Suns being like the worst team in the league.
I mean, the Wizards went young in the draft. Yes, Jordan Poole is an interesting high scoring piece. I don't think you had posted that you think he's going to get like 30% shooting. It'll be
There's a 30 on
45. It'll be
29%.
okay.
Let him shoot, man. Let him go.
Oh, you meant 30% field goal, not 30% usage?
45%
It could be both.
usage. It could be anything.
Yeah, 30% usage isn't that bad.
Dylan, did you like the trade for the Warriors, the Chris Paul for Jordan Poole, or flip that?
So like from the Warriors' perspective, the fit is like kind of terrible. Like Chris Paul, I don't think fits in well with the Warriors at all. Nate Duncan, I saw, brought up a good point. Do you remember when the Warriors, was it a free agent signing or a trade? I think it was a sign and trade. Yeah, sign and trade when they got rid of Durant. They brought in D'Angelo Russell, who was a terrible fit. But what it enabled them to do is maintain a large salary slot that they then moved for Andrew Wiggins, who was a huge part of winning a championship. And so to either have Jordan Poole further deteriorating in value or have $30 million worth of expiring contracts that you can move for something, I think is, we could be seeing a similar thing there where they maintain the salary slot, even though it's not a good player, but then you can move off of that piece to bring in something that actually does fit because you have the matching salary.
Great point. That's a really good point. And I actually do like Chris Paul more than Jordan Poole as just a player. Whether it's a bad fit or not,
Yeah.
I trust Steve Kerr to get some use out of him. I really hope they keep him. I'd hate to think that these like beefs run so deep they can't even fucking play together. But who knows? I think Draymond will come back, even though he's doing the Andre Iguodala Part 2 with my Kings, and they're like, "Oh, Sacramento." He's gonna sign that deal with the Warriors and post something about how he hates the beam or something just to fuck with me.
Yeah. Didn't you see he tweeted that he had a 3-hour phone call with LeBron where for 3 whole hours LeBron talked about what a good friend Chris Paul is. So he's all in.
He's all in. He's all in. Yeah.
I've decided I actually really like this trade for every conceivable reason for Golden State.
Nice.
I think Chris Paul with the bench unit the last couple of years has struggled playing the Warriors' motion flow offense. They haven't quite figured it out. You're now giving them the classic setup point guard. You can limit Chris Paul's minutes. You can, have him just run shit with that bench. Him and Looney can also play a bit of a pick and roll game. I think that'll be fun to watch. And I kind of like the Poole party lineup, but without Poole and with Chris Paul, because that's just like, let's get a second playmaker out there. We can have Clay and we can have Curry running around shooting threes. And now we have 2 playmakers that can play off the ball. He can still hit those mid-rangers. Draymond is still the worst offensive player on that lineup. But I think his playmaking is something that the Warriors really haven't had. Like, Draymond Green has been the best playmaker on the Warriors. Then people talk about, like, Iguodala. And then they talk about, like, Sean Livingston's closest thing to a real, true point guard. I think it's got some potential. I want to see it play out.
I think there are 2 major things that make me not like it from an on-court perspective. The first is that, like, I think there is like a world in which Chris Paul could like be a playmaker for Steph and Clay and fit into that Warriors motion. But the way in which he does that is by playing the Draymond Green role, where he's the one that's sort of coming off of handoffs and getting downhill and making plays to the open man. And so if he's doing that, then like what's Draymond Green doing? Like standing under the rim. So like there's that. And then the second thing that you said, which is, he just plays the bench lineup and the Warriors don't fall apart immediately when they take their starters off. Despite being a really mediocre team last season, they had, I think, top 3 maybe. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but their starting lineup was one of the best 5-man lineups in
They
the
still
NBA.
have their starters. The starters are all still there.
But I mean, and then when they come out, their bench was so bad that they ended up being a mediocre team despite having one of the best starting lineups in the NBA. And so I do think that like that idea of Chris Paul running the second unit helps. Chris Paul, though, is so lacking in athleticism at this point that the way that he's able to create space best is in the pick and roll with an athletic center. And like Kevon Looney is a really good player. Was a huge part of their championship run and their playoff run last year. But he doesn't provide like a lot of rim gravity, a lot of roll gravity. He's not a great finisher. He's not super athletic, kind of alley-oop finisher. And so I think that there is a world in which like Chris Paul is just like runs the second unit, and then there's huge benefit to that like the Warriors don't fall apart as soon as they take the starters out. But they may just need to bring in a more athletic shooter, not shooter, a more athletic center in order to run that, which isn't necessarily the Warriors style.
I'll give them Chimezi Metu. Someone take him. Come on. Draymond's going to be playing in Sacramento, by the way. So if you're worried about how he's going to fit with Chris Paul, just he's coming. A quick note about that. I've seen so much like Kings talk online about how I don't want Draymond. He's not likable, blah, blah, blah. We have been so bad for so long. We could not be picky like this. As any Kings fan listening to this, like you can't be like, I don't want this good player. I want my favorite good players. You got to take what you can get, man. You got to take what you can get.
My wife just texted me that as she's driving down the road, someone like fake jumped in front of her car and then jumped out.
Huh.
That's what Draymond's going to do with the Sacramento Kings.
I had a friend text me just now. Do you guys want to answer a fun question for free agency stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just very quickly. Would you rather have John Collins at 3 for 75, Harrison Barnes at 4 for 64, or Kuzma at 4 for 105? I'm guessing in a Kings situation. If you're right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect segue because I was going to say Kings are getting Kuzma.
I don't want Kuzma. I don't want Kuzma.
Can I ask what Jeremy Grant's getting in this hypothetical scenario? Because my preferred option is option D. Yeah.
It says that Grant's looking for $30 million. I don't know what man, who is that one guy? I don't know what EuroLeague team like Josh Childress is paying him $30 million a year, but he's not getting that money. You guys remember Josh Childress? Remember that?
I think he got $30 million over like 5 years. I feel like that was the Josh.
Inflation and
yeah.
Who's given Jeremy Grant? But it's gonna be Portland because Portland Dame's like I need talent, and they're gonna
Portland
box
has
themselves
to.
in.
If they don't bring back Jeremy Grant, they have no way to replace him.
I think I'd want Barnes for $64 million. It's just not that much.
Interesting.
It's just I can't imagine paying Kyle.
You're not excited about the inevitable Kyle Kuzma max.
We don't have enough money. We're bringing Barnes back. We need the EuroLeague guy, the Domos extension. I can't do it.
Kuzma to Sacramento. He misses his California.
Nate's only
just
saying this
jumper to LA.
He's saying this to kill me. He doesn't actually believe this. He's just saying this to try to wish bad things upon me.
Another interesting on-court fit for you guys.
Oh shit, Woj. Julius Randle traded to Sacramento. Aaron's so mad he had to mute himself. I really wanted to get that live though.
I said I appreciate it. I appreciate the you really sold that one. Go ahead, Dylan.
I'm just kill you.
What was I saying? A good on-court fit for the Kings. If you want someone that's even more unlikable from a fan perspective than Draymond Green, how about a little Miles Bridges action?
Oh man, I was thinking Dylan Brooks. That you're gonna go that way. That would suck. I don't know. I can't even. I could just resign in Charlotte. Go away. He's talented. He's good. He fit really well. Yeah.
All right.
I didn't even think about that.
Trade grades. Give me your Golden State grade.
B+.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Maybe like
B+ is all around. The Phoenix side of the Beal deal.
I think I gave it a C. C-.
Yeah, C to C- sounds good. Like it's not ideal, but also they had so little to work with.
I'm gonna go with D just because there's sometimes it's just better to not make moves. It's sometimes better to
that's
you're
always an option. Is you could just waive Chris Paul, or you could just play Chris Paul. Like you didn't have to do anything.
yeah. Dylan, did you ever play Monopoly? Does that translate over to New Zealand?
Yeah,
Don't
I
like
think we might.
Monopoly.
I think we might have talked about Monopoly before. How
Okay.
my girlfriend hates playing with me because I'm so into like my Daryl Morey trade offers, and everything is like a 3-way deal with conditional conveyance and stuff. So she doesn't let me make trade offers anymore.
I was just gonna say, like, if you play Monopoly, like sometimes you just don't want to buy every property. Sometimes the move is to not get the property and like wait for something.
It's the greens. Never buy the greens. Absolutely useless. Way too expensive.
Mm-hmm. Those orange and yellows,
Those
like
are
a,
good.
a middle price point, you can
Mhm.
buy them up cheap usually, and then you can trade for people because like you got one green and that person's like, I'll give you 2 yellows and like that's how it works. Yeah, so I'm lower on that. I'm giving it a D. The Boston side of things, Boston giving up Smart, getting Porzingis. How are we feeling? We've had a little bit more time to digest.
Give it an A. I like it. I like for Boston the new look. They've made so many conference finals. Whether you think they could be good enough next year to win the title, which they probably could have been, I just feel like it's run its course. And Kristaps gives them this whole other thing. This shooting, this scoring, rim protection from the center position they just didn't have. And Al Horford's a billion years old. He's like dinosaur age, and at some point, right? He can't be good forever. I remember we did the top 100 last season. You guys brought up Al Horford to be like top 50, top 60, and I'm like, no way. Al Horford's like 38, and
I
then
don't
he
regret
was.
that
He
our
was just
rankings.
yeah. You were right. He was good. He was just as good as he was last year.
I think I'd give it like a B. Like all the positive things that Aaron just said, but things that take it down from an A is like I prefer Kristaps as a center, and if Robert Williams is like going to get healthy, then he's going to be a power forward.
He's not
We
healthy.
don't get to
He's
like
never healthy.
we don't get to maximize his value. And then the other thing is Robert Williams is never healthy, and Kristaps Porzingis has had like 2 healthy seasons in his career. So like
It's
there's this
great.
doubling down on injury plagued centers.
They have these 3 guys, and then they're just gonna go one by one. They're gonna start Kristaps. He's gonna get hurt. On to Horford. He's gonna get hurt. On to Williams. He's gonna get hurt. By the time
Yes,
Williams is hurt, Kristaps is healthy.
you just get
Go back to
25
him.
games from each of them.
I think it depends on the
That's a whole
extension.
lot of Blake Griffin.
It depends on the extension for Kristaps. Are they going to give Kristaps 4 for 100? Is that scares me, right? That's nerve wracking. But
He age-wise lines up with the guys. Yeah, the injury history makes this terrifying. The fact that he needs the ball as much as he does makes this terrifying. And for Boston, but he can space, he can protect the rim, he gives them a new look. I like the idea of mixing it up. I would have liked this a lot more with Tyus Jones because Brogdon is also always hurt. And if you try to run this back with Brogdon, who sounds like none of the Celtics liked and were pretty happy to see gone, I don't like that as much. So yeah, I'm with the Dylan camp. I actually might be a little bit lower. I might be like a B- or a C+ because of just how it all unfolded.
I think a big part of this trade that needs to be mentioned is, they did trade away Marcus Smart, who was their starting point guard and one of their best players. And no one is really talking about them missing him, including us. And the big reason for that is that Derek White had an awesome season last year and was probably better than Marcus Smart for a lot of the season.
Yeah. I also, when they had the 3 guards, Brogdon, Smart, and White, it forced them to play Brown and Tatum as a 3-4 a lot. I like them as a 2-3 with the ability to shift up to a 3-4. Like I like having that versatility. So I think having 2 point guards that allow you to do the double guard, or you can play one and stagger the point guards, and having 3 power forward centers where you could just play one if you've got some health injuries, health concerns. Like I like that line of flexibility. I think it's a better balance. So I'm not too worried about them missing Smart. On the Memphis side of things, this is gonna be really disrespectful, but like, are we really gonna sit here and say like Marcus Smart is a huge improvement over Dylan Brooks?
I think it is, just in terms of Dylan Brooks took so many bad shots. He took so many bad shots. I think it's a nice Brooks replacement. It's a more mature Brooks replacement. I like it in that sense, especially for a team that's just off the fucking rails in terms of maturity, off the court issues. Just have someone who you know isn't going to do something stupid. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, like he's similar to Dylan Brooks in that like he probably shoots more than you'd want him to, and isn't a super efficient scorer and is a really good defender. But I think he's like all of Dylan Brooks, but like better.
Do you want to know who shot a better 3-point percentage last year?
Maybe I don't.
Aaron, do you want to know who shot a better 3-point percentage?
I mean, it's got to be Brooks. It's got to be Brooks. But I'm pulling up why
it is Marcus Smart.
I like Smart. Oh, is
God.
Yes. Brooks shot 32.6%. Smart shot 33.6%. So like we're talking 1% better. It's really close. Smart is actually a better passer and better ball handler.
Oh yeah,
better passer. Like it's like 4 extra assists plus 4 less shots. And I just, as of recently, last like month, I've been on this kick of guys who don't shoot the ball the fucking time. That's just my favorite player, is the guy who doesn't shoot 29 shots.
I don't know that that's Marcus Smart.
He shot less than 10 times a game. That's just not that much.
In the regular season.
But he shot
jacks that up. Gets up to 11 times.
To 11, whatever. It's not that. It's not that. That's a reasonable amount for your starting point guard to take.
I'm just saying. I'm not the biggest Marcus Smart guy. Like I think his emotional appeal and his leadership in Boston was huge, and if he can get Ja back on the straight and narrow, it will be huge in Memphis as well.
But they're the best defense.
But is it give up 2 picks and Tyus Jones? Tyus Jones was really useful for Memphis and orchestrated the team, kept them running. Like I think those first 25 games without Ja are going to be real rough.
Possibly.
How many shots do you think Marcus is going to shoot without Ja?
Like 14. But that's okay. I liked I totally forget his name. The point guard that they traded. Tyus Jones. I liked him, but I just feel like he didn't want to. He didn't want backup point guard anymore. He's seen enough of it. I think Smart's okay being that. And he can even
would have started at least 25 games.
Yeah, that's true. But eventually,
what do you think his trade value is after those 25 games?
Smart or Jones?
Jones.
I think about the same. I feel like everyone in the league knows what he is.
But I'm okay giving up those picks because it was a pick like 25 and whatever. It's nothing consequential.
All right, what's your trade grades for Memphis?
B-.
Probably give it like a B. Like they filled the biggest hole and didn't give up a huge amount.
I'll go B+.
One of you guys hate a trade more than I do.
I like trades, man. I'll convince myself of anything. I'm the kind of guy that in the off season, I'll be like, man, all these teams could be good. I had to like teach, but I like keep like the stickers and I tattoo myself like memento, where it's like not all teams are trying to win. Some teams will be tanking. Some teams will trade their assets and get worse. Not Everton will win 42 games.
All right. Well, I guess our last like kind of real substantive trade to grade is Washington. Both of their deals net them, what was it, 6 second? How many second round picks did they get? They got basically every second round pick that Phoenix could deal that they had. And then swaps, which may not have any value. And they got a top 20 protected pick from Golden State, which I believe, since it's the 2030 pick, I don't think they can have protections that roll over.
Can't be. Yeah, exactly.
So if it's
now in think about it,
if it's 20, if it's 19 or lower, they get nothing.
The swaps are worth nothing in theory, but they still could be trade pieces. You could be like, here, take this Suns pick. take the Sun swap because that's still an asset to own. I like it. I like it for Washington. I just think in my video I gave him an F- for the Beal deal, not because the assets they got, because like it was like they shot themselves in the foot, and then it's like, dude, they did such a good job bandaging that wound. Like
Yeah,
the bullet wound was just they nursed it, they got the shrapnel out, they wrapped it, it's not infected. Nice job. But I bet it's a new GM, it's a new regime. I'll stop being a dick. It was like a beach. There's a beat. They head in the right direction.
Yeah, like it really depends on like what sort of time horizon you're looking at. Like if you're grading like their entire handling of Beal, then it's like an F minus because like this guy was mediocre, and then you overpaid him and gave him a no trade, and then because of that no trade, you couldn't get any assets, and then you traded him for no assets, and so like that long time horizon, it's bad. But if you start at the point that you've got a mediocre player in terms of like being your best guy, with a no trade clause that makes him valueless, and you manage to get out of him and start to rebuild, then it's like, yeah, they did fine. Like they did as well as they could have done.
Yeah. I have to get going, guys. I appreciate your time.
All right.
I'll see you next week. Good to see you all. Glad we're all back. And now I'm gonna leave, right?
Yeah.
I'm leaving the studio, I think. All right. Oh.
Wait. Don't just mute yourself, whatnot. Leave it all open. Don't get out of here. Otherwise, it'll mess up the recording. We're figuring out this stuff. Oh.
I don't know what just happened. I went to leave the studio.
He's back.
It was like, don't. It was like, don't. I'm going to mute myself and stop the camera and go do something else.
Perfect. See ya. All right. Then we can kick him out of that studio there. I guess we really don't have too much else. Do you have any draft takes?
Not really too much, because like we didn't really do a lot of draft work. Like we didn't bring up a mock draft or anything. And like all these, draft grades are like so subjective, because it's basically like, did they draft according to who I thought was the best players? And
yeah. Did they get someone who fits their thing? Well, maybe not.
There's no way to know. The draft is all just guesswork.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess the one thing, the draft day trades, we did have Rashawn Holmes going for Davis Bertans and picks in there, but gets Dallas off the Bertans contract. Also gets the Rashawn Holmes, which is where's your Rashawn Holmes stock at? Because I feel like 2 years ago we did a top 100 and we had him in there because he was like a really solid center.
Yeah. Like 2 years ago, he was like a really good starting center, like an above average starting center. And then he had this like really lost year where like he couldn't get going, and he had, huge like issues from a personal sort of off court perspective. And really it was like a season from hell from him. But like, yeah, if he can get back to playing how he was 2 years ago, which is, not that unbelievable, like he actually would be a really good fit, I think, with the Mavs, other than the fact that he's not an elite rim protector. But like working in pick and roll with Luka and Kyrie, and like his, if he can get that floater game back to the incredible efficiency that he had it, where he doesn't need to get all the way to the rim in order to create an efficient shot, like that's going to be good offense.
And it's like a $5,000, not 5,000, like a $5 million amount of savings is for them. I actually hate to say it, but I do kind of like Bertans in Sacramento, just as like an all offensive play. He can be out there just jacking threes. Give him 10 minutes a night. Let him shoot.
Yeah, I don't know whether he plays, but like, yeah, I mean, if he can still shoot, that's still valuable. Man, that's another player that Washington like screwed up. It was them that gave him the massive, terrible contract, right?
Well, to be fair, he was shooting like 40% from three for the first couple of years, and then he just falls off a cliff. And
I mean, I probably would have done the same thing. I think at the time I was like, yeah, that's good value. Like he's one of the best shooters in the league, and he was shooting it with like incredible efficiency, but also from like
Mhm.
so deep that like it
Mhm.
really gave you like really, really valuable spacing. And then like, yeah, that's the thing with these shooters and also like defensive players. It's like if you just drop a little bit, you go from like incredibly valuable to just like unplayable really quick.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with these guys.
In 2020, he was averaging 15 points on 42% three-point shooting. In 2022, the start of the year with the Wizards before he got traded, he is down to 5 points and 32% three-point shooting.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, if you're a shooter, you got to make shots, or
yeah.
you know, what the fuck are you doing?
And to be fair, this last year he's up to 39% again. Very low volume, not playing a ton, but the Greatest of All Talk podcast has nicknamed him the Zero Trick Pony because he was a one-trick pony with the shooting, and then that went away.
Yeah. Now he's just a big guy that can't defend, rebound, protect the rim, or score.
Yeah. All right. Well, any final takes for the week?
Just trying to think what this like time period of like the draft really kind of like all blends into one. Like I'm not sure what happened like this past week and what happened since we last talked.
Really, not a ton. I mean, I guess we didn't really talk about Washington with Poole. Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, he's going to jack up shots, but we had a couple of trades. We had a draft. We don't really have a ton to go on. Free agency starts. Let's see, when does it start? I think it's the 1st. Yeah, June 30th. So next week we'll have had a couple of days. Have all the midnight signings.
That they just worked out on the spot
Yeah,
because they hadn't you know, in keeping with the rules of the NBA, hadn't had a chance to discuss it before then.
no contact prior to June 30th, midnight.
Yep, Magic Johnson's waiting outside LeBron's house at 11:59.
Any bold predictions? Anyone that you really want to see go somewhere, or anyone that you really think will go somewhere?
I mean, like none of the free agents are that exciting.
Yeah,
Like there's Middleton where you hope that he comes back to the Bucks, but if he doesn't, you know, he's just gonna like go and get the Pistons from being a 31 team to a 41 team. Like,
what if he went to Sacramento? What if they threw
Yeah.
him their 30 million?
like that'd be perfect, but like it's hard to make work.
Yeah. And also it's just one of the things that Aaron and I kind of touched on before you jumped on was like adding a secondary star to Portland doesn't actually like vault them into that high of a contender status. I don't know that adding Middleton to Sacramento with what else they've got, if that really can vault them. I don't know if anywhere that he can sign with puts them into like a top 5 contender or status for next year.
Hmm. Unless he can like get the Bucks to, I don't know, they can't even do that.
I mean,
I was gonna say sign and trade him for Chris Paul, but the Warriors are over the luxury tax apron, which makes them ineligible to receive a player via sign and trade.
Yeah. The Lakers are the real losers in the Chris Paul trade because if he had stuck with Washington, he's getting bought out and he's coming to Lakers. It's 110% happening. But no, Golden State just had to get in there.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see if they want to overpay Dennis Schroeder this time or not.
Fingers crossed, no. Well, where can the people find you?
On the Hoops Temple podcast, half an hour late every week.
Oh, you can find me here. You can find me at any of our socials above. Hoops Temple Pod at TikTok, hoopstemple@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you.